What's up, guys? Wednesday evening, 7 o'clock Eastern time. It's time for the race show. Before we get started, I just want to say that this episode is brought to you by 660 Marketing. Again, guys, if you're looking for anything marketing wise for your race team, motorsports company, anything like that, websites, graphic design, um, sponsorship acquisition, marketing decks, anything that has to do with marketing in motorsports, 660 Marketing has got you covered. So pretty excited. It's going to be an awesome show today. I have a very special guest coming on, and I'm very honored to have this special guest because he's pretty much one of the pioneers of radial racing. But this week is also Yellow Bullet National. So if you're in the Northeast DMV area, make sure to check out Yellow Bullet. Come by, spend your hard-earned money at Yellow Bullet. If you've never been to that event, it is amazing. One of the best events you'll ever go to for heads up racing. And it's just the action is just jam packed, and Cecil County Dragway is awesome facility. And I live 30 minutes away from there, so I'm very fortunate to live close to such a great racetrack. But without further ado, I'm going to bring on my guest, Mr. John Sears. How are you, bud?
Doing well. How are you tonight?
Pretty good, man. Pretty good. It's Wednesday night. Weather's good. Warm. I'm ready to hit Yellow Bullet this weekend. And I'm sure you are as well.
Yeah, we arrived today and getting stuff set up. Tech trailer is already in the staging lanes and prepared and ready to go. I loaded it up and tried to organize it somewhat for this weekend's activities at the Yellow Bullet Nationals.
Awesome. So you have a long history with Yellow Bullet. What's the history behind that and how that kind of intertwines with X275 and all the other classes that came from that?
Well, that's a great question. The website was started like in 2005.
Right.
And it was just an awesome place for everybody to kind of get together. We had another message board, a BFG drag radio board, and there was the Heads Up Review message board as well. And Yellow Bullet took it to a new level with access to so many different racers, so many different companies, so many different tuners. I don't know, it just kind of blew everything up, and it was a great platform to reach out to people and see what they were interested in and see what kind of racing people were looking for. And that was on the cusp of all the early drag radio stuff that started, in the late 90s and everything else like that. And,
right.
As the early 2000s came on, Outlaw Drag Radio was running quarter mile, and it was getting just so fast. A lot of us lower buck guys and small buck nitrous guys didn't really have a place to race. And that's kind of how X started. I just put feelers out on Yellow Bullet, and it was, like I said, it was a great platform. And we got started in Virginia and Maryland, both at VMP and at Budds Creek with Jason Miller and his group up there, and worked closely with Adam Pritchett and Nate Pritchett, 1320. And, X275 was a staple with their organization when they started their deal, so it was a great platform to get things started. And Monty really was sort of on the cutting edge of all this stuff. And a lot of people go, oh man, it was just a free for all, and it was a shit show and everything else like that. But in the end, there was a lot of us out there that understood what the platform was about, and that was about reaching out and helping drag racing grow.
Yeah, I remember the platform very well. This was obviously before yeah, like, Facebook was around, but it wasn't how it is now. Like you didn't have your Facebook private groups like you have now. You had forums, internet forums, and Yellow like I was on Yellow Bullet, but I never posted on there. You know how it was,
It was a Wild West.
yeah, like if you said something dumb, you get chewed alive. So, at that time, I was, not like I was involved in heads up racing, but not really. You know what I mean? So I kind of just sat in the back corner and just watched everybody, talk shop and argue and set up match races, set up grudge races, and all that fun stuff. But it was such a great website for sure.
It was. It was a I don't know. It was sort of like a renaissance, right? Like
Yeah,
just the ability to get race results, even, right?
yeah,
Like, think about that for a minute. With
hmm
all the people out there with their, the old school digital cameras back in the day, and it was, people posting up race results and people, putting pictures up and behind
yep,
the scenes stuff and everything else like that. That was stuff that you always had to wait, for your favorite magazine or to come out, or, your favorite website would do a feature on a car or something, but it wouldn't be for, a couple of months, or, or they do a feature on a race, but it would take a while for everything. Man, we were literally working in a tower sometimes at Bud's Creek and at VMP, loading results immediately after the round with pictures and um, run sheets and
hmm
qualifying sheets and everything else like that. So it was, to me, um, it's what's kind of missing today, with drag racing and stuff. We have all gotten spoiled with the instantaneous
yeah.
results, and hey, how come this hasn't been put up or whatever on your favorite Facebook page or what have you. So um, I don't know, just Yellow Bullet, as far as I'm concerned, with the reach it had and with the amount of people that you could talk to and get in touch with, and behind the scenes, you could message somebody and go, "Hey, man, what's your email? I'd like to run a few things by you." Of course, like you said, not being comfortable putting something out in the public eye in some of those
Yeah.
forums, because those guys would eat you alive. And I'm
Yep.
one of those guys that used to just get chewed up and spit out on the regular.
Yeah. So let's backtrack a little bit. You have such a rich history in drag racing, but like, how did you get started? Like, for people that don't really know you on a personal level, how did that all come about? Like, how did you get started?
Well, my big thing was I was sort of always into cars. My father and his father owned a automotive parts store
Hmm.
that had also repair bays and whatnot out back, and that was in New Jersey back in the '60s. And I think it's in my DNA. Cars are in my DNA, so I always had this sort of fondness for cars. And of course, I'm 58 years old, and a lot of the muscle cars that people are really fond of nowadays, um were still just daily commuters in the 70s and 80s. So I just remember those cars, just being part of life. And then as things transpired and I got a little bit older, um I raced dirt bikes and a bunch of other stuff, BMX bikes and whatnot. And so the racing bug kind of bit me. And the next level, I think, was cars and drag racing, just because it's pure and raw as far as the amount of horsepower and putting it to the ground and just going as fast as you can in 1320 or 660, whatever flavor you decide. So that's
What,
kind of
what,
where it all came about.
what was your first drag car?
My first drag car. Well, I hate to say it was a '74 hatchback Nova with a small block 350, that I could never get running right, but I put headers on it and an intake on it and carburetor, and didn't know anything about installing gears at the time, but of course you got to have your air shocks and you got to have your big, L60 tires out back. And, of course, when you loaded you and your buddies and whatnot in the car, the tires always rubbed. And, it was fun. It was a learning experience. But of course, with like a 273 or a 308 gear and that tall of a tire back there, it was a bit of a dud, but
Yeah.
didn't matter, man. I was young and I was having fun. And after high school, I wound up joining the military, became a jet engine mechanic for the Navy, and then transferred into the Air Force. And once I got out of the Navy in '88, I purchased what became my first like true drag car, which was a '69 Chevelle 300 Deluxe deal.
Nice.
So that's one of the cars that literally I took it from a bench seat power glide 6-cylinder rubber floor mat car into something that ran like low tens on BFGs, probably 99 2000 time frame.
Wow. Now, when you did that car, was it always like a heads up car or like a index car? Or did you like dabble in bracket racing? Like,
I bracket raced and I heads up raced. There wasn't a whole lot of index racing going on at the time.
Mhm.
And that was one of the things that I was like, man, if I could just, I'd love to be able to run the pro tree, but I don't have enough to run with some of these guys. And I'd love to find a way to do that. But man, I dailied that car for a long time too,
Right.
with various small blocks in it and everything else like that, just because I loved driving the car and I loved having it. And actually met Jeff Smith of Chevy High Performance. And in 2001, he did an article on the car, which was, one of those bucket list items, one of those dreams come true. So it was a pretty cool deal.
Awesome. So, let's fast forward to X275. How did that all start? Because I think I don't even know the full story of how that all started and how that came to be. Give me the whole rundown on that.
Well, I lived in Florida for a number of years, and we were down there running a little track called Immokalee, and they had a stock
Yeah.
suspension shootout, which was any drag radial or a 28x10 slick deal, and we ran down there for a number of years. They had a very simple set of rules, 10 rules. Number 10 was pretty much if you don't like it, you don't have to show up, which made things pretty simple. And we would run like these Fast Friday shootout deals and stuff on Saturdays, with the stock suspension stuff. And the guys over at Sunshine were doing their own stock suspension stuff. And
Mhm.
NMRA had their class with BFG drag radial and the whole drag radial, small tire, stock suspension kind of stuff. That whole movement was gaining ground. And if you fast forward to like 2007, 2008 timeframe, when big blocks, twin turbo cars were out there on 315s and just
Mhm.
running over the field. It made it really difficult for a lot of the lower butt guys, particularly nitrous guys and whatnot, to be competitive. And we were working down in Florida on what was called Florida Real Street. And that was sort of a jet limited class, blower limited, turbo limited deal. And when I moved to Virginia from Florida, none of the guys up here wanted anything to do with a plate nitrous system. They were like,
Mhm.
we're running foggers. We don't give a crap what you say. And so I sort of morphed the rule set that I had in my head for what was the precursor to X275 and allowed foggers and this, that, and the other thing. And VMP gave us an opportunity. They said, if you can get 8 cars to show up, we'll put up, $800 or whatever it was at the time. And I wound up running it up to Shelly Smith
Mhm.
in the finals of that first race. And I met 2 really good friends. I think I sent you a picture of it, where we kind of recreated the photo from way back then. Uh,
Which photo was that?
so that would be the one where the car is black and it's
Oh yeah.
myself and a couple of guys, and then right below it is a recreation of that picture when the
This
car's
one.
done. Yeah.
Uh,
So that's us, probably about 10 years to the day, kind of recreating that picture. And my son actually drove the car at that particular event and was the runner up as well, in Nitrous X. So it's kind of fitting that we were able to, recreate that picture, like I said, almost 10 years to the day, which is really cool. But I'll backtrack to X275. So as we're running Bud's Creek, on Friday nights with Maryland, Real Street and everything else that they had up there, the quarter mile times were just getting way out of hand. So I morphed a set of rules that I thought would kind of fit, the small block nitrous guys in the local area. And things sort of escalated from there. And I got with Monster Jones and Larry at Custom Tees, and we did an event at Bud's Creek, and they were like, hey, we got a bunch of guys that want to bring in, a big block nitrous car, and can you give them a weight? We'd love to have them over here. And what can you do about turbos and blowers? And, then we said, well, like a 4788 turbo and a F1R blower, and 9.8 deck, no more than 588 inches of big block nitrous. And that's kind of how it came about. And we just kind of refined that rule set. And I worked with Jason Miller again and Nate and one of the guys in the pictures, Randy Van Raden, one of my good friends. We all kind of sat down at a Pizza Hut, and we had paper and pen out as we were eating pizza, and we just kind of got the rules to where we figured they would work, and kind of the rest is history, man. It blew up, and people were excited. And my son was doing early YouTube videos in 2008, 2009, with all the racing, and that's kind of how we sold it to Jason. Was the production of the videos post race, and getting stuff up. That's him there in my driving suit. You can see my driving suit's a little big on him.
That's awesome.
But again, it's one of those things where it just kind of grew and grew and grew. And then, I knew Donald Long from when I lived in Florida, and when, they started the Radio Outlaw stuff, at Bradenton, and then moved to SGMP. It was brought on as like an Outlaw 28 versus 275 deal. First off, just to sort of see what traction it would get. And then eventually, he allowed us to call it, by its name that we had in the Northeast, which is X275, and brought it on. And, it's an unruly beast. And I'm in a, sort of a state of flux right now with the class, just because things have gotten so fast.
Yeah.
And as hard as you work to try to keep things in check and in control, people are very smart and they're able to go very fast. So I talked with Eric Dillard, and Jason Ruckert, who's the head of LDR, and we're going to have a conference call on Tuesday, and we're going to see if we can't wrangle X275 rule sets and get this thing under our thumb a little bit more than what it's been, so it could, it won't continue spiraling out of control. Because the first year the record was 403, and that was like 2009 time frame. And here we are, 2024, and we had White Rice, with a 2J and turbo go out there and run 403 earlier this year. So again, as hard as you try to keep things under control, it's very difficult.
Well, yeah, I think it also has to do with technology too, right? Companies, building new parts, coming out with new stuff to make cars go faster, go down the track more straight, things like that. Is that probably one of the hardest parts about your job, is like, trying to make everything fair for everybody, so everyone has a chance of winning. But like you said, like, racers are extremely smart. Racers are like engineers. They'll figure out a way to, go faster, or, find something around the rules that hasn't been set yet. You know what I mean? Is that the hardest part about your job, you would say?
Yeah, I think that's one of the most difficult parts, because if you really look at it, you know, the technology of a 588 cubic inch conventional head, you know, nitrous motor and an 88 millimeter turbo, and of course the F1R, you know, has gone by the wayside, and now we have the, you know, the F1X, or the, you know, the F3D 102 and 106 and the XB 105 and all this stuff from you know, Vortec and from ProCharger and stuff, and of course Precision, and you know, you've got forced induction turbos out there, you know, putting stuff together. And so if you were to set today's 88 millimeter beside the 88 millimeter that we had back in 2009, that was part, they're a world apart, right?
Oh yeah.
They're a world apart, but it's because drag racing is, you know, an entity where people will continue to push the envelope and go as fast as they can under a given, you know, set of rules.
Yeah. Is this the original crew?
So this crew right here is all good friends, and my buddy Jeff up front in the green shirt, he handles all the merch for X275 Ultra Street Limited and everything else like that. And he'll have all that stuff at Yellow Bullet this weekend,
Yeah,
for sale. You know, we do quite a bit of t-shirt sales and hat sales and hoodie sales and everything else, you know, at these different events. And one of the things that we're able to do by having the merch there is we give back. Like, we're a pretty good bit of the sponsorship for like Ultra Street this coming weekend at Yellow Bullet. You know, we try to utilize you know, the funds gained through sales and whatnot, and we try to put it back into the sport, and to continue, you know, helping it grow. And you know, and that's a huge way for us to show appreciation for our racers and fans and everybody that supports us.
that's awesome, man. That's great to hear. And then this photo, this was like back in the day, wasn't it? You look like a really young guy
Yeah,
there.
that was quite a few years ago, man. That is Monty Miko's wife, Maria, myself, and Big Daddy Dwayne Guthridge. Everybody will tell you I'm standing on a box next to him, but he is one of the godfathers of the drag radial movement. That guy has, you know, he put a lot of effort in back in the day with NMRA. And of course, if you ever get a chance to talk to him, he'll tell you about all the emails that I sent him when we were trying to get drag radial started in Orlando at the World Street Nationals. And he saved all those emails and everything else like that. And I would go on the NMRA message board and I would just trash talk all those guys over there to see if I could get them to come, you know, and support drag radial in Orlando, because they had their own thing. But by the time, you know, World Street Nationals came around, they were already done at the NMRA for the season. So there was plenty of opportunity for, you know, Dwayne and people like Chris Little to come on out to Orlando, which quite a few of them did.
Nice. So tell me about, you know, your own X car. This one right here, right?
Yep.
Do you still have that? What give me the history on that car and everything.
So that car you saw in the picture used to be black back in the day, and we ran in X275 for a number of years. And then I stepped back a little bit into Florida Real Street with it. Again, a jet limited class and stuff like that. And then things got really fast. And I said, man, we've got to do something, you know. So I sort of rehashed, you know, the small block nitrous deal, and we called it Nitrous X. And I ran the car in that for a little bit. And then my good friend JB came out with No Clock Small Block. And of course we ran in that and had some fun. And, you know, did some stuff called Nitrous Street and everything else like that. Just more classes to try to get nitrous small block guys an opportunity to kind of showcase what they're capable of,
Right.
and what they're running. And that car is currently sitting in the trailer ready to go. It's got an SB2 nitrous small block in it, about 410 cubic inches. It was built by Clements down in South Carolina, and the chassis was built by NRC Motorsports in South Carolina. And all the suspension components are from our good friends at TRZ.
Awesome. That's awesome. So, when is the next time you guys are going to race it?
Well, it just depends, man. If there's an area in a drought, all you need to do is ask me to come to your area and your racetrack. Because like 4 times in a row, I tried getting the car out a couple years back, and it rained all 4 times I tried to get it out. So I don't know if I'm a jinx with that business or what, but it was rather disheartening, and I since started playing back with some street cars and some Chevelles and Malibus and stuff like that are just more street than they are strip.
Gotcha.
Just because they got wipers and I can drive them in the rain,
Right. So how did you and your team are teching the cars this weekend at Yellow Bullet. You do a lot of the events around the country. How did you get involved in teching cars, and how did your company start?
Well, the whole tech thing essentially started by default. When you write rules and you talk with promoters and they want to have, the class there because they think it's going to bring a bunch of cars and a bunch of people through the gate, man, they're more than happy to do that. And when it gets down to brass tacks, they're like, well, who's going to look this stuff over, to make sure that it's legit? And they're like, well, you're the rule guy. You wrote the rules. It probably should be you. And I'm like, well, I want to race.
Right.
And I want to race in that class. And it just, I didn't want it to become a conflict where I'm writing rules and I'm also racing in the class. So we kind of stepped out of that role. And that's why, we ran a bunch of the other stuff that we didn't have a huge say in the rules or it wasn't a conflict, people didn't have an issue with it and stuff like that. So through the years, as all this stuff grew, I was constantly doing, the lights out and the no mercy stuff. And I was still working a full-time job and as a facility management guy for the Park Service in Virginia. And the more I got out there and the more my face got out there, the more the classes were recognized and people were like, hey, can you come to Texas to Tech X275 and maybe some of these other classes? And I'm like, yeah, I'll go. And, they're paying me and covering my flights and hotels and rental cars and all that other business. And it's like, wow, this is pretty cool. And I got, to the point where I was thinking about retirement and leaving the Park Service. And that's kind of how the RTRA came about. Because that was a racing organization down in Texas. And those guys weren't using the name anymore. And I really wanted something to kind of personify the radial stuff that we do. And that's where Radial Tire Racing Association came in. And that sort of took the place of our X275 Motorsports and X275 Championship Series.
Nice.
Yeah.
But you also, tech other stuff too. You tech pro mods, things like that, right?
Right. So as this grew, and as things transpired, people find out that you're retired now and that your schedule's a little more open.
Right.
I'm fortunate enough that people have come to me and they go, hey man, we'd love, for you to do our event. And some of the events I was already at and I was doing the radial stuff, but I wasn't doing some of the other stuff, and just learned and branched out and was in the right place at the right time and benefited greatly from, all the things that I learned and all the people that I got an opportunity to work with and for. And that once I retired, it morphed into the tech director position at PDRA. And then I was fortunate enough to be named competition director for the World Series of Pro Mod, and work with Wes Buck and his crew there. And that's something that I hold near and dear to my heart, because that's an amazing event. The positive energy at that race is unparalleled, as far as pro mod racing goes. And I really think Wes is trying to grow pro mod racing, in particular with Victor at Bradenton, with this 3-race deal that they're doing over the winter at the Snowbirds, the US Street Nationals, and of course the World Series of Pro Mod, where it culminates in to $100,000 payday. And again, I'm fortunate enough to be able to do that, and then that in turn, you get to talking to people, and next thing you know, you're being asked to go to do drag and drive events like Drag Week, which we have coming up in a couple of weeks. Work for Hot Rod and Motor Trend. Working for Tom Bailey at Sick Week and Sick Summer, and getting to do all those. And those events are amazing. The people are just phenomenal when you go to those events, because the big thing is most people that go to those, they're just happy to be there and they're happy to make it through the week. There are some people that are very competitive, and they want to win their class and everything else like that. And God love them, because it is a grind. It is a 6-day grind that these folks put themselves through with their cars, and going to multiple different tracks and racing and putting transmissions in the car on the side of the highway and all that other business that a lot of people would think is just insane.
Yeah.
It's just normal for those guys that do that stuff. So that's kind of where we're at. And then earlier this year, I decided, to relinquish my position at PDRA, and was sort of wondering, what's next and where am I going to go and what's this mean for the RTRA and everything else like that. And No Prep Kings gave us a shout, and I was able to fill the role for them as their tech guy, and help them, iron out some rules and everything else like that. And then I've got other staff that have worked the events. Jennifer Briggs, who's working the pro mod stuff with me and the radio stuff with me this weekend at Yellow Bullet. I've got Mike Washington, who's a really good guy working chassis search and stuff like that. And he works for Pro Media and PDRA as well. So we've got quite a few people like on the RTRA staff. Of course, they're all 1099 employees and everything else like that. But between myself, Jennifer, Mike Washington, Eddie Maloney, Jesse Burke out of Texas, Rick Dodge when he's available, and then Vinny Ludicina at who's now the PDRA tech director. We can plug and play a lot of these people into multiple different events and really provide a solid amount of tech and consistency in our program. And I think that's one of the biggest things is we all rely on one another. We all have our strengths. We all have our weaknesses. And the fact that we've all worked these different events together, I think it really gives us an opportunity to give a promoter or a track owner or a track manager or somebody that's doing an event an opportunity really to elevate what they do as far as inspections on the cars.
Yeah. I guess I was just going to say, I'm sure in the beginning it was hard because you couldn't, you can't duplicate yourself, right?
Right.
So I'm sure it was hard in the beginning because I'm sure, sometimes, this event wanted you and then this event over here wanted you and you probably couldn't do both. But now it seems like you have a pretty strong team where you can be at multiple events at once in one weekend or whatever. Does that take like a lot of training on your part when you first bring somebody on, or how does that look like internally?
Well, it really just depends on the individual themselves, right? Like we can take somebody that has and get them trained up. They're not going to be at an extreme high level. They're not going to be able to recognize certain things that they're looking at within an engine combination or whatever. But that comes in time. That's one of those things. And if somebody was willing to put in the time and the effort, well, we're willing to train them to get to where they need to be. all the folks that are on the RTRA team all have strengths, and they've all been at this for a long amount of time. Do they know, maybe a certain set of rules inside and out, like the back of their hand? Maybe not, but you know what? They're going to be able to make good, sound decisions at the racetrack. First and foremost, of course, is on the safety side of things, because we're all NHRA bronze or NHRA silver card holders. So that's one of the big things with us, is we always start on the safety side first and foremost, and then we get into, the actual class rules and the performance tech and all that other stuff.
Gotcha. Here's a loaded question for you. What's one thing you love most about your job, and one thing you hate most about your job?
I think the thing I love the most about this is seeing the racers when they come off the racetrack and their performance is really good, or they've won an event, or they've qualified number one, or they've gotten a personal best. That is probably one of the best things about this, is seeing that level of passion and enthusiasm out of our racers, and just their sheer enjoyment of, climbing that hill, so to speak, and mounting the summit and being able to put their flag there. That's one of the huge things that I really love to see, is that passion and that enjoyment out of the racers. I mean, other than, getting the chance to work with some really awesome folks, and getting to see different parts of the country. It's been pretty exceptional as far as the travel and whatnot is concerned. The thing that I hate the most, I hate costing racers money with a rule change. I know how hard money is to come by. I know, what these guys have invested into their programs, and what they've given up, to go racing. And it really hurts sometimes having to write certain rules and put certain things out that are going to affect people financially. In the end, I just want to see the class competitive, and there be parity, and that it's successful, and that it's sustainable. But if you've got one or two folks that are just, basically running over the top of your primary group of racers in the class, and they're that far ahead, I hate to punish performance, right? You don't want to punish performance, but at the same time, that performance could be detrimental to the class, and you're going to be losing racers, and we're seeing that often.
Yeah. You often hear about, hey, you're killing the class, or you're about to kill the class, or whatever. You know what I mean? When racer, kind of, beats a ET by a lot, or whatever. You know what I mean? So.
Oh, it's huge, man. It really is. And those are, dude, I want everybody to go fast. I want everybody to, get a personal best. I want to see everybody do well. But at the same time, you wind up hurting your product overall, that you're trying to put out. And then, like we saw last year, we weren't going to have X275 at Yellow Bullet, which is, really, that was a hard pill to swallow. And it was just because of the fact that the car count had gotten low. Some people had moved up to some class, another class, or people had moved back classes. And we weren't seeing the numbers, and promoters have things in their head where they want certain amount of cars and certain amount of numbers and participation and everything else like that. And man, I completely understand that. But we were able to gather up enough racers and enough funding through sponsorship and whatnot that we had a really good, 16 car, show. This year it wasn't possible. It just wasn't in the card. And I don't, the cards, I should say. I just don't know if it was a matter of, how fast things have gotten. We're in a state of flux as far as the political stuff that's going on with the presidential election coming up, or people kind of playing things close to the vest. You also have huge conglomerates eating up all these smaller companies. And now, rather than going directly to Holly for something or to Haltech or something, both of those companies are now under the same roof.
Right.
So it's
Right.
really difficult to kind of pinpoint some stuff as far as sponsorship dollars and everything else when most of these companies or a lot of these companies are under the same roof.
Yeah. It's I actually have this conversation pretty often, and it's like, I don't know, like I feel like and I that's why I enjoy what Wes Buck is doing, because I feel like he's trying to propel the industry forward, but at the same time, kind of bring it back to what it was, so that racers, promoters, tracks have sponsorship opportunities and things like that, and have more money in their pockets. And but it's very difficult right now, and I'm seeing it as well. Um, where companies are really holding on to their dollars and cents right now, and trying to be smart with it, because you know of the state or of our country and things like that, you know what I mean. And it is an election year. I hate to get political and things like that, um but yeah, it's what do you think is needed to propel the whole industry forward?
I think we need to work together, and I think we need to understand, um, where we're at and things. I think drag racing overall is healthy. Look at a lot of the bracket programs countrywide and whatnot, right? The bracket racing's not really slowing down.
Right.
And it's because a lot of people have moved into it because it's, the upper echelon stuff, like Top Sportsman and stuff, of course, is just as expensive as some of the pro mod stuff. But
Right.
um, but for the grassroots guy, man, the guy with a Fox body and a LS motor and a carburetor, there's thousands upon thousands of those guys out there.
Yep.
And those are the ones that we need to look for and look to, because, as you go up the food chain, things start to get a little bit more narrow, right? Like you've got a pretty broad base, but as you climb up the ladder there, like look at how many top fuel teams there are overall, and top fuel funny car teams and pro stock teams and then pro mod teams and things of that nature there. Now it grows a little bit as you get, it's almost like a pyramid, right? Or a
Yeah.
triangle.
Yep.
It's
It's
very
like,
pointed at the top and very singular.
yeah.
But you've got a very good broad base of people, and then there's a small tire and radial and no time guys all kind of in the middle there in the mix. And I really just think it's going to take everyone working together and being cognizant of trying to help promote and to put a positive face on the sport, that's all I've ever wanted to do.
Yeah, I think drag racing, even though, like, the economy's not that great, but I think drag racing is in a great spot right now, because there's so much drag racing. PDRA, NHRA. You have your no time grudge stuff. You have no clock small block stuff. You have World Series of Pro Mod. All that stuff that Wes Buck is doing. It's like there's a lot of it, and a lot of good racing out there right now. But yeah, I agree with you. I think we all need to come together, put our heads together, and just you know keep propelling it forward. You know what I mean? Um, in the so I love the grudge world, the no time world. You know what I mean? That's mainly what I race in. Um, what do you think? And you race in it as well, and you do the no time small block, no clock small block stuff. What do you think is needed for that particular segment to propel forward?
That's a tough question, because the the grudge scene is always been, run what you brung and hope you brought enough.
Right.
And now it is um moved somewhat into shootouts.
Yeah.
And not actual grudge racing, right? Somebody's
Right.
putting up the cash, and 15, 18 cars are going out there trying to run for the cash. So it's now it's no time, right? It's just a no time shootout. And there's always some rules that go along with that, right? Like, you can only, run a 275 tire, and there's no tube chassis, pro stock style body stuff and whatnot, stock, wheelbase within 2 inches or something along that line there. And I think what folks need to do is they need to, sort of bring back some of that grudge racing and some of that attitude back to grudge and no time racing. That's what made it right. Look what Mike Hill's done with the 484 stuff.
He's done a phenomenal job.
He's done an amazing job with the 484 stuff. You know why? Because them guys come to win, and they come with some attitude, and they go out there, and people can call it a class or they can call it whatever, but they bring it, and they bring a show, and they're there to win. And there's no complaining. There's no getting online, bitching that this guy's got this and I don't have that and whatnot. You know what? You signed the waiver when you walked into the gate, and you signed the tech card saying that you're going to enter 484. So you understand what you're getting into at that point. And I think a lot more people out there need to understand that. And I think Mike has done a great job. I think Lance and Travis have done a phenomenal job with Carolina No Time. Peso just had a killer event and paid out good money up there in Michigan. I think that's one of those deals where, if there's a little more attitude and a little less worry about what the other guys got in the other lane, and go out there and see how you stack up, I think that's what's really going to bring the no time and grudge world back, into the forefront. I think because the pendulum always swings, right? You'll see there'll be highs and lows and stuff like that, but it always swings back.
Yep. Yeah. I think a lot of that has to do with guys being afraid to lose and getting ridiculed online. And it's like, who gives a shit? Just get in the paint and race. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Think about this: in a 32 car field, we'll say Ultra Street, right? 31 of those guys go home not winners.
Right.
It's a drag race, man. And only one person is going to survive at the end when they use a ladder. You don't see people when they're playing college basketball and the Sweet 16 is on. That Gonzaga's mad that they got to go, play, NC State or something like that. They know what they got into. They know what they signed up for.
Right. Yeah. That's a good point. And we talked a little bit about what's going to propel the industry forward, but if you could snap your fingers like that and change one thing about the drag racing industry in general, what would it be?
The lack of TV exposure for stuff that's not NHRA.
I couldn't agree more.
I think we need to get. Listen, I'm working with the MPK group right now. They've been just phenomenal to work with, man. There's just a really good group of racers, just like you and me. They want to race and they want to win. And I feel very fortunate to see that side of things, right? Because we've looked at radio racing and worked at no time events and worked pro mod events and different organizations and stuff like that. But if you look at what they've done by bringing in the average Joe to watch their show every Monday night or Wednesday night, whenever it was on, and that translated into asses in the seats at all their events and long lines for merch and things of that nature there. That's what's missing. That mainstream TV exposure is what's really missing. that, and of course, RTRA logos all over everything, and me and my staff getting hired for more events than we can work, so we can hire more people.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, I agree. And Wes Buck talks about it all the time. The one thing that the Street Outlaws team has done that I think NHRA can probably do a better job doing is they brought in characters. They focused on the characters, more so than the cars, right? The
Right.
cars were the plus side of things, right? But people really, the regular Joe really fell in love with, that character or this character. You know what I mean? Or they hated this character, right? It doesn't matter.
Right. You always need a heel out there, right?
Exactly. So, and I agree with you. I think there needs to be more coverage of everything. You know what I mean? Really, that good racing. Like, wouldn't it be great for Mike Hill to have his own TV show about his series? You know what I mean? That'd be phenomenal.
Absolutely.
But obviously, it takes a lot of money to do stuff like that. So, um, so if you could give anyone any advice in this industry that's trying to I guess make it as a promoter, as a racer, what advice would you give them?
I would say, just because somebody tells you no along the way, don't take that as the last answer and gospel.
Mm-hmm.
Look at it from multiple angles and different perspectives, and see if you can't come back and approach it differently at a later date. I post all the time on Facebook with positive messages and stuff. I tell everybody, keep moving forward, right? No matter what, keep moving forward. And if you keep moving forward, good things are going to happen.
Nice. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. So what do you do when you're not racing? What do you do for fun?
Well, I work on cars. I work on some older, late 60s, early 70s hot rods. I've got probably more projects than I want or need, I should say. I want more. It's always Facebook Marketplace. When you're bored, you look at something, man, that would look probably pretty good in the garage or the driveway, or man, I think I could fix that up, and with some of the spare parts I've got in the shop. So that's mainly what I do for fun. And my son has his own YouTube platform and stuff like that. I share a bunch of stuff for him. Skeeter Wyatt, he's in character often, and he just goes to different car shows and interviews people as this character, Skeeter Wyatt, and tries to promote the local car scene and car culture down in Tampa, doing that stuff. But he also has videos where he's working on his own project car, which is a 78 Camaro and his S10 V8 pickup truck that he has a lot of fun with. So, I mean, obviously it's in his DNA, and he's still trying to have fun with it. And whenever I get down to Florida or Tampa, I'm always dragging parts with me, and him and I are putting them on his car or changing some things out to make it a little bit better and have some fun with it.
Nice. Yeah, I know you're very close with your son. How old is he now? How old was he when
he's 35?
When did he hop in to the Malibu?
Golly, I would say he was 16, 17.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so we let him run some 650 index with it.
Okay.
For a while. I just, it's one of those things where we had a couple cars that we could run that ran at various ETs and mile an hour and stuff. So I used those as sort of stepping stones until we put them in something, fast and, again, safe. And I think that learning curve really helped him as a driver to understand, what his limits are and what the limits of the car are. You see a lot of folks out there that, they have a ton of money, and, they may not have a whole lot of driving experience. And there's a huge leap from, let's say, an 11-second car to a 9-second car, or a 9-second car to a 7-second car, or, a small tire, street style car, jumping up into a top sportsman car or a pro mod, something like that. And
Right.
Who's to say that, that's the perfect way of doing it, but that's how we did it. And he seems to have thrived by doing it that way.
That's awesome, man. Is there anyone else you'd like to shout out before we sign off?
Yeah, I'd like to thank Monty Miko once again. Yellow Bullet, you see it on the hat right there.
Yep.
And just a huge fan of that guy. Jim Halsey for believing us and hiring us for multiple events, and all the other promoters out there. And I'll shout out to my friend Lonnie Grimm, NHRA National Tech Director. That guy right there has been a huge part of my knowledge base, and he's mentored me, and I've learned a lot from him, and hopefully I've been able to shoot a couple things his way on areas of expertise that he may have learned something. So
awesome.
Yep.
Thank you so much, John, for hopping on tonight. I know you're a busy man. I didn't know if I was going to be able to get you because I knew you were probably going to be at Yellow Bullet. But the good thing is, you didn't work until tomorrow, so I guess it all worked out. But I can't wait to hang out with you at Yellow Bullet this weekend, and just experience the event. I've been there many times, but every year is just more awesome than the previous year before.
Oh yeah, the level of competition, I don't care what class you're in, is phenomenal. People can talk about competition in various forms of motorsports, but if you've ever watched PDRA and see those kids in those 790 dragsters, that's a high level of competition that you just don't expect, right? Junior dragsters. Well, try to get into a 64 car field here in 850 index at Yellow Bullet Nationals, and let's see how good you are, because those guys are cutthroat. 850, people can talk, smack about index and whatnot, but that class is amazing with the amount of cars that they bring, the quality of cars that they bring, and the quality of racing. Yeah,
I'm actually trying to build a car for that class next year. I hopefully, if everything pans out, I'm gonna be doing that. But I know it's very, very hard. It's one of the toughest classes out there, period.
That's what makes it worth it, man.
Yeah.
If you can win in a class like that, you're definitely doing something.
Exactly.
Who wants the puppy kick, right?
Exactly. Awesome, man. Well, thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in, and we'll see everybody soon.
All right, man. Appreciate you having me. Thank you so much.
All right.
Have a good night.
Like this show? Want more? Then head to watchpttv.com, the new 100% free PowerTube TV streaming network. Home of the best classic and new motorsports racing and build shows on the web.